All right, welcome back to this video series. We're in part 4, still working with shared accounts in the Centrify patterns for just in time, just enough, and other privileged access requests. In the previous, this is going to be the last part of the video, but in the first part of 4D, we discussed that we're using shared accounts protected, vaulted by Centrify PaaS, brokered access by Centrify PaaS, but protected by Centrify CSS agents. And in the previous video, we explained what were the rights that were assigned to the accounts and what are the benefits. So basically on Unix, Linux, we get the benefit of access control, centralized identity, and privilege elevation using Centrify Enhanced Sudo. In the case of Windows, we get the centralized provisioning. We also get the access control, with the difference here being that the privileges have to be pre-provisioned, like adding the user to the local administrators. The key benefit of this approach is that you still get unique access. You're still using a shared account with unique passwords. That is a deterrent right away for lateral movement. But at the same time, Centrify Zone is enforcing if that account exists in those systems. So you have a single source of truth for user accounts. Passwords are rotated by Centrify PaaS. And finally, the accounts may have the privilege elevation, which limits what the account can do. So that being said, let's talk about evidence, right? How do we go about tracing back what happened in a system? The most direct way to do it right away is using Centrify Direct Audit. So Centrify Direct Audit has the ability to audit locally. For example, notice here that the Unix local ADM account was used, right? And everything that was done, you can replay, right? But in this particular case, we're seeing the replay as it's seen from the local system. This is agent-based auditing. This means that regardless of me coming through a jump box or not, my actions are going to be monitored. However, how do you find out which was the user? Because we do know that it was Lisa that used it. So what we can do is go to this view here, Infrastructure Services Privileged Sessions, and it's going to show you a different view. And notice here that it's going to show you it was Lisa using that shared account Unix ADM. And that's how you put together the, what happened in this particular session using, Centrify. The other mechanism would be using audit events, right? Because the user in question was granted Centrify rights to be able to do certain area. All I need to do is look for it. I think it's Unix ADM. And notice that I can see all the sessions here, and it's going to tell me all the privileged execution that happened. This is also in the syslog of each machine. That means that these can be mined by Splunk and any other SecOps solutions. Let's look at the PaaS side. So in the PaaS side, what are the degrees of evidence we have? So I initially would go to activity. So notice that activity right away is going to tell you, who has used this account in this particular case, or in the case of the system itself, we can see it. Another area would be proctoring, right? So if a session is still open, I believe that there's a session still open here. I could proctor the session provided that I have the proper rights. Let me see. I'm not sure if I have the rights to do this for this account, but we can always try to see if there's an overview. Here it is. And let's do a watch. So let's just okay, let's see. Say we can proctor in real time and even disconnect if needed. So let's go ahead and disconnect it. So the session on the other side is disconnected. Another area would be going back to the workflow system and looking at requests Obviously, these are the requests being made, but I'm pretty sure that there are some built-in reports that allow you to see some of the activity. For example, let's see user activity here. So we can do account requests as well. Notice that there's other requests that I've been making. So there's, when you think in terms of the access request, we have traceability and reports. In the case of the objects themselves, we have local logs, we have past, originated logs. And then in the target systems or through the job box, we have session capture and replay. And this extends to Windows as well, obviously. For example, the same capability. For example, when I use that Win local ADM, if I wanted to replay the session, I have the ability to replay it. I believe that my session may have been this one here. So, and I guess here I just open Notepad and this is demo 4D. So, but at the same time, we have the same traceability of finding out who was the user that used those Windows sessions, like I did here. So notice that it's Lisa being attributed the use of that Win local ADM. Same when you look at the events. So you can look at events, for example, in this case, group by machine, and I can go to that member 3 and notice that I have events by, by that local ADM user as well. For example, in this case, because we're not doing privilege elevation for that local user, we can see if the user has logged in or not, right? I'm not going to go and show the activity logs in PASS because it's going to be the same, given the GUI is being consistent. But the key here is that from an access control perspective, using, for example, in this case, shared accounts that are local, you also have the ability to use the Centrify server suite capabilities to ensure proper provisioning of the users themselves, the role assignments for those users that provide many other additional controls, as well as the password and the rotation policy of it. So I'm hoping that this lengthy demo explained a lot of some patterns that can be used with local accounts, but using Centrify Server Suite as the provisioning and rights and access control via workflow using privileged access service as well as vaulting services.